It is now day 3 of the government shutdown. Today, the Senate will once again hold votes to try and reopen the government. But every day, we're seeing more close signs posted around Washington and massive layoffs loom. The White House says thousands of federal workers could lose their jobs, which could happen as soon as today. Meanwhile, Democrats and Republicans continue to trade barbs on Capitol Hill.
We are not asking Democrats to swallow a list of new Republican policies or partisan demands. Not in there. We are asking Democrats to do nothing more than pass a clean, nonpartisan bill to fund the government for a few more weeks.
Donald Trump and Republicans have made clear they wanted to shut down the government. They want to inflict pain on the American people. They continue to engage in their retribution efforts.
And we have team coverage for you on this morning. CBS News correspondent Natalie Brand is at the White House. But let's begin with CBS News congressional correspondent Nicole Killian on Capitol Hill. Good morning, Nicole. So we couldn't see this yesterday, but is there any sense of optimism that today's vote might pass?
Well, I think at this point, we're not going to make any predictions here because it is a day-to-day situation, right? But obviously, if we look to past votes as any indicator, it could be another heavy lift to try to reach that 60-vote threshold here in the Senate. That being said, some rank-and-file members do see today's vote as critical to try to move the ball forward in some shape or form. But that really involves somebody caving. Take a listen to what some senators are saying about the current situation.
Do you think either side is going to blink here?
Oh gosh, I don't know the answer to that. I just I'm totally opposed to government shutdowns, and I think that this is going to be a disaster. It's going to be really bad for the people of my state. That's all I can say.
What's extraordinary is that Republicans have done nothing to try to negotiate a solution to this. The House of Representatives isn't even here. John Thune has been boycotting meeting with Senator Schumer for months.
So where there is bipartisan agreement is the frustration aspect of all of this, because both sides do want a way out, but at the same time, they just simply can't agree on how to get there. Again, you have Republicans pushing for this clean extension of funding, which they will try to do again today through these votes. But Democrats say, look, we really need some guarantees here. The trust deficit here on Capitol Hill can't be understated, so they want some type of guarantees that the White House isn't going to claw back congressionally appropriated funds, that some of these Obamacare subsidies can be extended, and they need more than a nod and a wink. So we will see how today plays out.
And Nicole, in our last few seconds, if today's vote fails, what comes next? How many more days are we looking at, likely?
Well, again, I don't think that's anything we can predict either, but Leader John Thune has indicated that there will likely not be votes this weekend, meaning senators potentially may go home and have some time to think about this in the view of the majority leader, and then they may try again to hold votes on Monday. I would note the House is expected to come back next week, so again, we'll see if both chambers being in helps advance this situation in any way.
No, Nicole, you make a great point. It's impossible to know specifics, but the pressure is certainly on. Nicole Killian starting us off there in Capitol Hill. Thank you. CBS News correspondent Natalie Brand joins us from the White House now for more. Natalie, we heard one of the senators there say this is going to be bad for his state. The White House says mass layoffs could be announced today. What do we know about that?
Yeah, the White House press secretary has said that layoffs are imminent, and when we asked her a number, she said yesterday in the thousands. We also know that the president had a meeting yesterday with the head of the Office of Management and Budget, Russ Vought, to say he was going to talk to him about looking at programs and agencies that could be cut as a result of the shutdown. The president really framing this as democratic programs and agencies. Take a listen to more of what he had to say.
Well, there could be firings, and that's their fault. And it could also be other things. I mean, we could cut projects that they wanted, favorite projects, and they'd be permanently cut. So you could say, a lot of people are saying Trump wanted this, that I wanted this closing, and I didn't want it. But a lot of people are saying it because I'm allowed to cut things that should have never been approved in the first place.
Now, the White House still has not given specifics about exactly which programs or agencies they're targeting. We'll have to try to ask them again today. But we do know that unions have already filed suit over the threat of the layoff, saying that it's illegal to make these moves during a shutdown.
And Natalie, in addition to the threat of layoffs, we know that thousands of federal workers have already been furloughed. We spoke with one person yesterday who said when that happens, they don't get a paycheck and they can't pick up another job. But tell us more about the real life impact a furlough has for them.
Yeah, I had a conversation with the president of the American Federation of Government Employees. That's a union that represents federal employees nationwide. And he said in his recollection, morale is as low as it's ever been, given, the DOGE cuts earlier this year, threats of rifts, now a shutdown. So employees are having to try to think through arrangements if they're not getting a paycheck by mid-month. That's really the concern here. Here's more of what he had to say about what they're thinking through.
65% of Americans live from paycheck to paycheck. The people I represent is no different. And so when payday get here, that's when they go order groceries. That's when they go fill up the car with gas, But guess what? In a few days, there's not going to be a payday. So what are they going to do for groceries? What are they going to do for gasoline?
So mid-month, when they would be missing that first paycheck, is really the concern. Already, we're seeing banks and credit unions that are geared toward military service members and federal employees start to offer payment assistance or loans. But a lot of federal employees still holding out some hope at this point that they're not going to have to make those calls, starting next week.
Wow, it's very serious. Natalie, thanks for keeping us across it all. Thank you. White House officials tell CBS News the first round of shutdown-related layoffs that could hit today. The president claims the situation gives him the opportunity to cut government agencies. He also spoke to One American News about this meeting this week with congressional leaders from the Democrats.
They don't want anything to change, and what that's going to do is ruin it for the people that are tax-paying great American patriots.
He's referring to the Democrats there. CBS News Chief White House correspondent Nancy Cordes has more on this for us from the White House. Nancy, good morning. A government shutdown does not typically lead to layoffs. So help our viewers understand the legal authority the president is using to accomplish that.
Well, that legal authority is being tested already, Errol. You have a group of unions that have filed suit against this administration. They say just because there's a shutdown doesn't mean you can ignore federal hiring and firing rules and just go ahead and put a bunch of jobs on the chopping block. The White House says, they're creating precedent here, and they're willing to take their chances in court, which is a strategy that we have seen from this administration before, where they cut jobs first and wait to see whether a judge will let those cuts stand or not. The other big question, Errol, is just how large these mass firings will be. We simply haven't gotten an answer from the White House yet about how many people they plan to lay off, though we did get some new indications from the White House press secretary yesterday. Take a listen.
It's likely going to be in the thousands. These discussions and these conversations, these meetings would not be happening if the Democrats had voted to keep the government open.
The White House, the president, the director of the Office of Management and Budget have all said that these layoffs could be announced as early as today. So we're watching, Errol, to see if we get any more details about the cuts.
And Nancy, we're also seeing reports of what's being described as targeted messaging around the shutdown, which seems to be coming from the Department of Education. What do you know about that?
Right. Well, in any shutdown, both sides are looking to avoid the blame. And so you can't turn on a TV set without seeing Republican or Democratic leaders making their case. But the administration is using some more subtle means to get their point across as well. CBS News talked to a couple of furloughed employees at the Department of Education who say that they set up those automatic out-of-office messages on their emails, the kind that just say, I'm out of town, or I'm not available right now. And in this case, they say that their out-of-office messages were changed to include White House talking points claiming that Democrats are to blame for
the shutdown. You see it right there. Unfortunately, Democratic senators are blocking passage of this bill, which has led to a lapse in appropriations. So it just gives you a sense of how far the White House and, in some cases, the Democrats will go to get their point across to the American people.
Wow. I'll at least call that creative, changing an out-of-office response to score a point. Nancy Cordes at the White House. Thank you so much.